I got something I want to talk about. I got that male urge to talk about a hobby, and it's either this or the blue wizards from Lord of the Rings. If I ever talk about the blue wizards from Lord of the Rings, just take me out back and shoot me. They should add the blue wizards to Smash Brothers. In my heart, there's a special place for the Origins Game Convention in Columbus, Ohio. For decades, it's been in Ohio, and it's a convention that's been around in some form since 1975. Gen Con was 68, by the way. Origins started only 7 years after Gen Con. Let's go, Bucks. I love Origins for the back tables they have set up. Tables just set up to play board games. And it's a lot of tables. A large percentage of the convention is actually just playing board games at any given time. Don't get me wrong, I like panels. I like stuff from vendors. I've played in the odd tournament. But these tables, oh boy, that's the real stuff. They got a library of games you can borrow from. You can bring your own. You can get a little flag that shows that you're looking for players. You get everything together and just set up on a table and just jam some games with strangers. It's a great time. This past year, I joined a group and played El Grande for the first time. That game's pretty good. I bring up Origins because of this recurring event they have, Giant Agricola. This event's been running for years and it always fills up. You're playing Agricola, but everything in the game is like way bigger for no real reason. Your personal player board isn't like one dinner plate sized board. It takes up an entire table. You've got an entire table just to yourself for your own player board, and every other player does as well. When you want to place your pieces on the board, you don't just like lean over and place it down. You stand up and might walk to an entire separate center table to place down your pieces. In normal games of Agricola, every player builds their farm with tiny pieces of fences and tiles. In Giant Agricola, you build your fences with Lincoln logs, and you populate them with little figurines that are painted of pigs and sheep. When you get an oven, you walk over and grab one of the painted ovens they have and put it next to your house. This whole event is like a really cool spectacle. Perfect fit for like a convention. But playing it, it's like wizard chess from Harry Potter. You're Ron Weasley on the back of your horse commanding pawn to G2, and the big old piece moves. It's great stuff. Now, Giant Agricola is a cool thing to see, but the game itself, Agricola, like base normal Agricola, this game is actually legendary. It's been around for nearly 2 decades. It's got a large competitive scene. It's tons of people's favorite game of all time. It probably saved someone's marriage. I don't know. Oh, also, the game is basically ground zero for an entire genre of games. It wasn't technically the first worker placement game, but it's fair to say it popularized the genre. For those who don't know, a worker placement game has a shared board in the center of the table, or in the case of Giant Agricola, this center board is actually an entire center table in the middle of the play space. This center board has actions that any player can take on their turn, but if anyone else sends a worker there, that action's now blocked, and you can't take it, and it'll be blocked until everyone else has placed all their workers, which will be a few rounds at least. In a worker placement game, every turn has inherent drama and risk about which action to take. Because you're blocking actions for other players and they can block you, which spaces do my opponents want to take from me? What's the most important to me? Let's say you want to make a sheep pasture and you already have the wood. Well, nothing's guaranteed. You can spend your turn building the fences, but before it gets back to you, someone might have taken all the sheep and now you're stuck with an empty field and might miss a lot of growth efficiency. This game feels really cutthroat because of that. People blocking actions, every turn you don't know what to do. It's really, really great. Giant Agricola was my first exposure to Agricola, and if you couldn't tell from my description, or maybe you know Latin, Agricola is a game about farming. It's a farming game. But here's the tagline. 17th century, not an easy time for farming. Yeah. Understatement of the year, that is. Farming in this game is hard. It's hard work. You're going to play for 2 hours, and you might end with like 2 little sheep pastures and a couple of fields of grain. Why is that? Why do you end up with such a modest farm at the end? Well, while your goal in the game is to grow your farm and score lots of points, along the way, you gotta feed your family after every harvest. I couldn't tell you how many times I've been to the edge of starving in this game. Feeding your family is not trivial. Every action you take has this like deadline looming over it. It's like, oh, harvest is coming up. It's like a loan shark banging on your door. When harvest does arrive, you'll have gained all of this profit from your farm, and then you're going to basically lose all of it just to feed your family. You might have to even eat one of the animals, which will hurt further efficiency. You're sweating bullets, wondering if you have time to make a new pasture to increase long-term efficiency, or if you just gotta go fishing right now to put a little more food on the table before harvest. When I first learned Agricola, this decision was so juicy. The decision of efficiency versus feeding your family, because you gotta feed the family, but I really want to keep my efficiency going. Here, I'll run through this misery in action. When the game starts, there's a quite generous 8 actions before the first harvest. Thank you, Agricola. That's so nice. Thank you for these 8 actions before I have to feed anyone. So I'm going to use those 8 actions to get as much rolling as possible. I'm going to get so many fields planted. I'm going to get so many pastures built. I'm going to get like some buildings. It's going to be great. But how many actions does planting 1 field of grain cost? Well, first you got to go to the market to buy seeds. Fair enough. Then you got to spend a second action plowing the field. Okay, good. Then you spend another entire action actually planting the seeds. You spent 3 out of 8 of your precious pre-harvest actions, at which point your single field will yield a very modest amount of grain before you need to sow that field again. Also, once you harvest that grain, make sure you build an oven because you can't eat grain. You gotta bake it into bread, and that also costs an action. So yeah, half your actions before the first harvest will yield 1 field of grain. So many Euro-style games today love to just give you an abundance. Anytime you take an action, resources and victory points just spew out. There's no bad choices in these games. Everything's pretty great. It's about choosing the best option out of many possible good options. As you can see, that is not the case with Agricola. Agricola has basically no good options on the board. Like, everything is slow and terrible. You can get blocked while doing your plan. This is a game about having no good options and scraping together what you can to survive. Once you've gotten feeding your family out of the way, any extra actions you have, you can actually spend that improving your farm, but those are really hard to come by. And you just basically will be praying in this game that you have enough points to win at the end because it's so brutal and so hard. Again, this is not a game that's super pleasant to play. This is a game where you're scraping and clawing for every advantage you can get. After learning about Agricola through Origins, I pulled together some friends IRL who'd also never played the game before, and we had a game, and we had a great time. We all just really felt a lot of desperation every harvest. There was lots of yelling. No, you took my pigs. Or, no, do not block that. I need to build an oven this turn. My family will starve. And then the glee as someone clacks down the piece on the build an oven space, and that player bursts into tears. Great stuff. Great stuff. I actually have the paper scorecard for that game. We all were quite bad. We scored very poorly. Not surprising. It was our first time playing the game. But our scores were bad for additional reasons. It's not just we were new to the game. There's a pretty big reason. We were playing the game kind of entirely wrong. We didn't get any of the rules wrong. It's just that we had a misunderstanding of what the game was fundamentally about. It's like we were playing chess by exclusively targeting pawns, or trying to access all the ports in Catan. Our core assumption about the game was just incorrect. I would learn the extent of this misunderstanding a few months later when I played the game again with some online board game friends. This sort of experience I think most board game hobbyists can relate to. You learn a new game, and then you run into some of the game's super fans online, play with them, and lose miserably. But like I said, I just misunderstood the game, so this wasn't a normal board game thrashing. This was a complete slaughter. Big Agricola fans probably know what that core misunderstanding was, because many people's favorite part of the game I have not even mentioned yet. And a simple change to this part of the game is how these people ended up with scores of like 70, 72, 75, while my first game, me and my friends had scores of like 25, 24, 22. We had less than half, sometimes even less than a third of the score that these people were scoring. The secret to these high points has to do with the farming efficiency puzzle. I alluded to it earlier. Farming in the game is slow. It takes a lot of work to collect seeds, plow fields, plant them, collecting wood, building fences, filling the pasture with sheep. This takes a lot of actions. The real way to play Agricola is not trying to maximize the efficiency of your actions for your farm. It's about maximizing the combo potential of your hand of cards. At the beginning of the game, every player gets a grip of 14 cards. Experienced players will draft these cards from packs instead of just dealing them out. The power of these 14 cards can be absurd when comboed with each other. Example, Field Watchman. This is a card that says whenever you get seeds, you can then plow an action for free. This one card doubles your action efficiency. Every time you get seeds, you also just plow a field. And remember those 3 actions I mentioned to get a grain field? Yeah, that cuts this down to 2 for the entire game by having this one card. If you combine that with a card that lets you reap from fields faster, you get an insane engine going. The real way to play Agricola is using the busted effects of these cards to feed your family and accumulate a wealth of resources. And then once you have that wealth of resources, at the very end of the game, you just slap a farm together with them. You're not actually producing much from their farm. Most of the farm you build is just at the very end for points. Because again, the efficiency isn't coming from having a large, expansive farm. The efficiency is coming from your card combos. And then you use the extra resources this efficiency gives to convert it into points later. You build your farm at the end of the game just for victory points. You don't actually build the farm to reap the rewards from it over time. Most of it is just slapped together at the end just to score. When I got this revelation that farming isn't actually that important in the farming game, I thought it was kind of the lamest thing ever. Again, the farming game isn't about farming, it's about card combos. You only make a farm for points. That really put me off Agricola. I was really put off by Agricola for this lack of farming and maximizing card combos. We got more story yet to go. Months go by and I play Caverna. Caverna was made by the same designer as Agricola, and you could see it as a fixed version of the game. He took out cards and then filled it with more interesting action efficiency puzzles. What initially attracted me to Agricola, this really brutal, really difficult action efficiency puzzle, Caverna is all about that because they completely took out cards, and then the hole that cards left, we added way more systems in. Now there's caves you can mine in, you can perform certain actions to get paid money, and then you can later trade that money for resources. There's more buildings, more animals. They even made farming more efficient. The game was pretty committed to making the game not about card combos, while filling the hole that cards left behind. I liked Caverna the first few times I played it. It was a good time. I liked Caverna the first few times I played it. Caverna, I thought Caverna would be exactly what I wanted, right? This is what I thought Agricola was. All the things I liked about Agricola are here, with none of the stuff I bounced off of. After my positive reaction to Caverna, I tried Agricola some more, just, contrast the two. And I actually got to play with those online friends that crushed me. I got to play with them IRL, so it was really fun to play with these people that I'd only know online. I played in-person Agricola with them. It was great. And playing Agricola with them even more, I started to actually accept Agricola's core premise. I actually accepted what Agricola was trying to do, and I fell in love with the game again. Drafting choices of what cards to get are so interesting. You get your pack of cards and you're humming and hawing over which cards to take. It's like you're chiseling like a block of marble, trying to find the best strategy inside the block of marble. Agricola is rising to be one of my favorite drafting games of all time. Magic will always have a special place in my heart, but Agricola is a pretty close second. Agricola is just really singular in how interesting the drafting is in it. It's pretty freaking good. To recap, Agricola isn't about farming, but the drafting is fun. The most profitable actions are not the ones enabled by your farm. The most profitable actions are the ones enabled by your cards. I didn't like the game when I first tried it because it was contrary to what I thought the game was selling me. Something not often talked about in board games is that because board games require such an investment to play, and you fall in love with the game before you actually play it, you can feel kind of betrayed when the game doesn't meet your expectations. You might see a great shut up and sit down review, or hear about a game on a podcast, or see it on a store shelf. You read the back of the box, your mind starts racing. Maybe you fall in love with a core mechanic or the setting of the game. You're sold on it, and then you buy it, and then maybe months and years go by before you get a chance to play it. I've had games like that. I've had a game where I discovered it and didn't get to play it for years later. And the whole time, my mind was kind of swirling with the idea of what this game could be, but I just never had the chance to play it. You're spending so much time investing in the game mentally. You're spending so much time thinking about it, and then you actually physically put in the effort to get the game together. And if the game doesn't meet those expectations, or maybe it just doesn't play in the way that you thought, I think that sense of betrayal is kind of natural. There's probably a lesson here about player expectations. It's hard to fix a bad game, but you can fix what your players expect from your game. You can change your marketing to actually be more accurate. Agricola had the tagline, 17th century, not an easy time for farming. And so I think it's pretty natural to assume the game is about farming. Even if you've built one of the most amazing revolutionary games of all time, it's possible to have happen what happened to me, where you give it a shot, it doesn't match what you thought the game was, and so you completely write it off. It was only from those online friends roping me back in that I gave Agricola another shot and discovered it's one of my favorite games of all time now. Anyway, I think it's important for games to market what they're actually about, that the core, most important thing in the game is what you think it is when you read the box, because people might just write off the game if it doesn't match. All right. That's about all I have to say about Agricola, at least for now. Game's pretty good. Thanks for listening to me talk. I'm probably going to make an audio version of this if you wanted to just not see the video, although you already watched the video, so checkmate there. I might do more of these. I think it's pretty cool. Mostly this is just a way for me to take journal entries that I've made and convert them into little essays and then put them up. I figured you all are used to the internet and used to seeing visuals and hearing things as opposed to reading things, so that's what this is. Anyway, have a good night, gamers.
Whenever you're ready. Sorry, all right.
Yeah, you're all right.
You're good, though. You're good to go. That's on film.